You Can't Make This Shit Up. Episode number 7 with Paul Elam and Tom Golden. Let's see what they're doing. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you all as we all hurtle through space at about 70,000 miles per hour. I'm joined today by Paul Elam, and from A Voice for Men and an Ear for Men, and Tom Golden is myself. And this is number 7 of You Cannot Make This Shit Up.
Lucky 7.
Man, number 7 is going to be a whopper because we've got 4 that really are just stunning. Anyway.
Absolutely stunning. Absolutely true. You cannot make this shit up. And we are not making this shit up because we have links that prove what we're talking about. It's on the internet, so it must be true.
It must be true. Oh my gosh. Are you ready for the first one?
I'm ready.
All right, here's the title for the first one. Novelist who wrote about how to murder your husband, charged with murdering her husband. What? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. It starts off as Nancy Crampton Brophy, 68, is the author of pulp-style books. They didn't say romance novels, including The Wrong Husband and The Wrong Lover, whose covers feature dashing and occasionally shirtless men. And my thought, Paul, was she should have written the book The Wrong Wife.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, as long as you're writing gyno porn.
Oh, my God.
I take it that's a romance novel sort of feel she was going for.
Yeah, I think she was the romance novel type. In fact,
at least before she shot her husband.
Yes. And in a number of her other books, she talks about murdering husbands and things like that. In fact, in this one article, she talks about the 5 things not to do when you murder your husband. Don't use poison. Who wants to have to be around with someone who's sick all the time? That's what she said.
Well, yeah, you don't want your victim to cause you too much trouble.
That's right. Don't use a hitman. Sometimes they turn you in. So this woman took her own advice and she shot him herself.
At his place of work, I understand.
Well, yes. And it hasn't really been proven yet, but I think we can guess pretty well. The poor guy was a chef. He was a teacher at a culinary school. And this one morning, his students come piling in and they find him in the kitchen bleeding to death. And he proceeds to die, right? Everyone's flipped out. What the hell's going on here? Because this guy, they loved this guy. He used to take them on trips, going out to the forest to pick out, things that might taste good in certain things. And he was just really creative guy, really friendly guy. Obviously, his wife didn't quite think so. She had other ideas about.
Now, Tom, we know there's another story. He had to have been abusive, something like that. Women just don't do this sort of thing.
Paul, I couldn't agree more, but we don't know anything yet about what her alibi is. But I think we can guess that it was because he hit her, or he was who knows what.
Toxically masculine.
Of course. He had a penis.
Yes, he did. He did have a penis. Allegedly.
Yes.
So we can't really hold her too much at fault. She lived with a man.
Oh my gosh.
And according to a lot of feminists I've read over the years, that's perfectly good reason to kill somebody.
You would think so. So she's talking with her neighbor over the fence about things. And the neighbor says, well, do the police keep you in touch with what's going on? And she looked at the neighbor and said, no, I'm a suspect. The neighbor got, what? You've been out? Holy crap.
Well, it's been nice talking to you.
Yeah, really. Well, we'll see you next year or something. Oh my gosh. So...
the irony of that, I just love it. She writes a novel, How to Murder Your Husband, then murders her husband.
Yes.
And of course gets caught.
You would
so I folks, if you're going to take her how-to guide, I don't think it's a really particularly good guide. You might want to find somebody to get advice on murder better than that.
And we still don't know exactly what they know about this because they apparently sealed the court documents and they haven't opened them up yet. So there's a lot that's not known yet. but I think it's pretty clear that she did the deed. And oh God, she posted to Facebook the day after, Paul. She posted to Facebook, "I'm so upset. I'm sorry, and I'm still in chaos. And please forgive me. I know you think a phone call would be better, but this is all I can do right now is write a Facebook post." Oh boy.
Yeah, well,
Oh boy.
what can I say?
What can you say?
Except that you can't make this shit up.
Man, you cannot make this shit up. I mean, really, it's crazy.
And
How to murder your husband.
speaking of murdering bitches,
Yes.
how about we move on to story number 2?
Next, murder.
The murdering bitch edition of You Can't Make This Shit Up. A woman in India, actually, I should start by saying a couple in India were having financial problems. The woman worked as a seamstress in a factory, and the man worked on a loading dock in the garment industry. And they had, as you can imagine, those positions don't pay a lot of money. They had a lot of financial problems and argued frequently over money. Apparently, they got in one pretty heated argument. And so the woman waited for the man to go to sleep. God, have we heard this theme before? She waited for him to go to sleep.
Again.
Yes. She waited for him to go to sleep, then bashed him on the head with a brick several times until he was unconscious, then strangled him to death, then went to bed, got up the next morning and went to work, and then came home from work and cut his body up into different parts and into 2 different bags. And one of the bags went into a drain near their home, and another bag went into a bamboo patch, apparently also near their home.
What was I saying about you can't make this shit up?
Yeah, you really can't make this shit up. And I think I was also just saying that women don't do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
At least not without good reason. But apparently, according to the story linked below, she did have a reason.
Yeah.
Somewhere during that argument the night before, he slapped her.
I was going to guess that.
He slapped her in the face.
Oh.
Of course, the bastard had it coming. Now, I do need to point out that she was really the only one left alive to give that account of the story.
Haven't we seen that before?
Yes. But allegedly, he slapped her in the face. So naturally, she waited for him to go to sleep, bashed him in the head with a brick, strangled him to death, cut his body up into a bunch of pieces, put it in 2 different bags, and then scattered it to the wind. But he slapped her.
Yeah. He slapped her.
And I understand feminists have heard about this story, and they've demanded an investigation into the slapping.
Are you serious?
No. But I could be.
I was going to say, I had to ask.
Yeah, exactly.
I
You
had
did
to
have to ask, didn't you?
The whole thing with battered women syndrome, I mean,
Absolutely.
You're entitled to do anything to him if he's ever hit you. Oh, and you don't go to jail either.
Well, who was the university professor? I forget her name. They all sort of run together like bad dreams. Yeah, the university professor that asserted in Canada that an abused wife has a moral obligation to kill her husband.
Ooh.
And we have a moral obligation to let them go. I forget which one it was. Somebody will remind us in the comments, I'm sure. But God, and here I was, we're talking about India, where a lot of, I'll add this as commentary. There is a reason, Indian MRAs are the most organized together group of MRAs anywhere on the planet.
Yes.
You know why?
Because
they have to be.
Yeah, they got a shit show going there.
India is, as you'll see in other stories here, is the most unbelievably, you talk about you can't make this shit up. India lives by a set of rules in their society you couldn't possibly make up. If you were a red pill novelist and you wanted to write a dystopian picture of the future, go to India for your research. Do it there, because I tell you, those guys had to organize, because the way they treat men in that country, unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my first.
I'm glad they're organized.
Story.
I'm glad they're organized, and a hat tip to Indian MRAs.
Absolutely. They're setting the example for the world.
Yeah. So you finished with that one?
I'm finished with that one.
Well, let's move on to Russia.
Russia,
here we come. Okay, so we're going to...
Is it another murdering bitch, Tom?
Oh, Paul, they're everywhere.
Oh, my goodness.
But here's the title. Wife stabs her husband to death in Russia after he complained her cooking was bland and said, if you loved me, you'd use more salt.
What a bastard.
I know. How can he say something like that?
Oh, my God. You know, this is another example of women's work going unrecognized, unappreciated.
Oh, man. Jeez. What can you say? A woman murdered her husband, stabbing him at least 35 times because he criticized her cooking, say Russian law enforcement. I'll make sure not to criticize my wife's cooking anytime in the near future.
Well, man, as well as she uses a knife, you'd think she could find the salt.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. She should just put the daggone stuff on.
I know somebody's going to get mad because I'm making light of this, but Tom, I don't know what else to do.
No, we have no choice but to make light of it. And what was going on, I think, was they were having a couple over. And during the dinner for this couple and for the guy, apparently the dish did not have enough salt in it. And so that was his comment. And so the couple then goes upstairs to go to sleep, and the argument continues. This is according to the wife, of course. And the wife says, what did she say? The row continued after their guest, a couple, went to bed, and the host hit his wife, she claimed.
Oh, another one that got hit
Yes.
Before she murdered.
Funny, it's the same thing. He hit his wife, she claimed. The important part is she claimed. Anyway, he hit her. The owner of the house offended his wife and tried to hit her. That's another section of this whole thing. And then the woman got angry, took a knife, and inflicted at least 35 stab wounds to her husband.
Did she wait later
in the article, Paul, it says, it later emerged she stabbed him after he had been asleep.
Oh, yes, of course. She waited for him to go.
He hit her, and he did this, and he did that, and he provoked her, talked about salt, and she waited for him to go to sleep and stabbed him in his sleep with his own fishing knife. Ugh.
For complaining that the food wasn't properly seasoned.
That was a part of it, at least. So it's like
35 times. Now, of course, the feminist lurking in me says, oh, 35 stab wounds, that's an act of rage. It's an act of craziness. He must have been very abusive with her for a very, very long period of time. Or there's another theory. She's just a crazy bitch.
I would go with the second.
Okay.
Because this crazy bitch stabbed him 35 times in front of their 4-year-old daughter.
Oh, my God.
What?
I can't even joke about that.
Oh, no, it's just so sad. Just so sad. So this woman is just completely out there,
Well,
Oh.
Of course, Tom, this is a mental health issue.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
Except for the husband.
Counseling. She needs counseling.
Oh, she needs jail. Come on. Bring on the jail.
Men need jail when they do things like this. Women need counseling.
How could I forget that, Paul?
Yeah, I'm telling you, Tom, you're slipping, bud.
I am. One of the things the article mentioned was they said that the neighbors were all complaining that this woman was at home still caring for the 4-year-old daughter. They thought she should be in jail, you know, which I can understand that from a neighbor's point of view. But then again, from the daughter's point of view, I mean, ugh, what are you going to do? When you take away her mother, she's lost both parents, you know? And you don't take away the mother, and you're making a mistake there too. So no matter which way you turn, you're screwed. It's a sad tale, eh? But it sure fits with the "you can't make this shit up" part. You certainly can't. It's just crazy stuff.
And I guarantee, well, I don't want to guarantee it because I could get fooled, but it's highly possible that we could be coming back on the tail end of her trial and sentencing and doing another "you can't make this shit up"
I know. Let's hope not.
over the slap on the wrist that she's may get for stabbing her husband 35 times and killing him in front of their daughter.
And a part of it may be that she's mentally ill and therefore blah, 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 which is one of the very typical excuses for women. Either they're mentally ill or they were abused as children. You know, those two go a long way to excuse women for almost anything. You know?
And never mind that men's prisons are filled with mentally ill men.
Yes.
It just doesn't matter for them.
Just doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're mentally ill. We'll get you counseling in prison.
Yes.
And of course, meanwhile, countries like the UK are trying to abolish women's prisons.
Yes, I heard something about that for our country too. You know, here in the US.
Yeah.
We're talking about it. Why should women be in prison, Paul?
Oh, I can't imagine. Not when there's all these sandwiches to make in the free world. What can I say?
Oh, God,
good
isn't it the truth? All these sandwiches to make. So should we go south back to India now?
Let's go back to India for more of shit that you can't make up.
Number 4.
In India, there was another murder. A man and a woman got in an argument over some very petty reasons. The woman had been cheating on him, and for some reason he was angry. And yes.
For some reason, he was angry.
He was angry, and they got in an argument in which he called her and apparently the daughter in the family prostitutes to insult them. And the woman goes and gets her boyfriend, the guy she's fucking, behind her husband's back, and they come back and kill the guy. I think somewhere in the midst of all that, he apparently slapped her.
According to who?
Says the one who didn't die.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not just the kicker. The kicker is the woman was convicted of the more severe form of murdering her husband, which was a good thing. The more capital-oriented crime in India of murder. But then a judge overruled the conviction and reduced the sentence because he had offended her honor by calling her a prostitute. And he reasoned, linked below, that of course she exploded in rage and killed him. How could any woman stand being called a prostitute? And I guess if she were to take her boyfriend's dick out of her mouth long enough, she could have complained about it instead of killing him. But she didn't do that. She committed murder. And actually, after cheating on her husband and then killing him when he got mad about it, she got sentenced, reduced, because he called her a name.
Wow. Man, that's gynocentrism in bold font.
Yeah, and you look at what we were talking about a few minutes ago, India supposedly being, this reputation of India being this horrifically patriarchal, misogynistic nation where women are all oppressed. I'm like, what?
Yeah, really?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No.
And it ties to a different thing. And part of where this comes, this overly, insanely compassionate reaction to the fact that the woman had been called a prostitute comes from the Indian Penal Code, where offending a woman's modesty is what it's called, is a punishable crime. If you insult a woman, as a matter of fact, there was a court case about it, and I'm going to butcher this name, but a man had gotten in an argument with a couple, and he called the woman a chamachalka. And that's actually from an Indian musical, but it was meant in an insulting way. He went to prison for offending her modesty.
How dare he do that?
Because in the patriarchal, misogynistic country of India, it is written into federal law that you cannot say something offensive to a woman or you will go to prison.
Wow. I thought political correctness was bad.
Link below. No, that's why crazy. I say, why are Indian MRAs so organized? Because they have to be.
Yeah, man. Bless their hearts.
What a clusterfuck of a country.
That's amazing.
And I mean no offense to Indian people, but as far as governments go, burn it to the ground.
Huh. Wow.
Anyway.
So I got one question about this, Paul.
Sure.
The guy helped her murder the husband, right?
Yeah.
So he must also be charged with murder.
I don't know. It wasn't mentioned.
Was his sentence reduced?
They didn't mention that in the story, one way or another. Apparently,
anything, he's in there for life. You know, he got
as well. He should be
probably
the treacherous white knight that he is. He deserves to be in prison.
But it's just this complete imbalance. You know, with she gets a reduction. She did the same thing he did, and he gets nothing. You know.
Well, I'm sure, according to Indian journalists, they covered everything important.
Oh, God. You can't make it up.
You can't make it up, Tom. You just can't.
You can't. And that was number 4, right?
That was number 4.
Anything else with that one?
No, sir. But I do understand that we have a bonus situation.
Ding, 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 ding.
Bonus time.
Yep. Bring in the cuckoo.
Folks, linked below, something near and dear to my heart is Buzzfeed.com, which is notorious for the sake of publishing stuff that's not true, getting caught for it, and then doubling down on being dishonest. They are running into... I wish, we need a sound effect of, some little sobbing in the background or something like that. But BuzzFeed, apparently their ways of catching up with them, they're running into financial problems, and they're having to lay off 250 yellow hack journalists. The BuzzFeed, and for the sake of full disclosure, BuzzFeed is a publication that did an expose on me.
Yep.
Part of which was actually true, 80% of which was bullshit. So it's something near and dear to my heart to see them fall on hard times.
Amen.
Looking at going the way of Gawker, which I think they eventually will.
Yes.
Piece of shit publication. They have been attacking MGTOW, MRAs, incels, anybody that doesn't fit the blue pill mold. They have launched vicious attacks on them, done everything they can to silence us and to ruin us in the minds of everyday people.
Yes.
They have failed, by the way. I would say that 1 million plus downvotes on the Gillette ad said that BuzzFeed didn't really get their job done as well as they'd like to.
Yeah, really.
And a shout out to the Egard watch company.
Indeed.
Who made that fantastic video. Matter of fact, Tom, we should link that below.
We will.
And if you want a place to buy a watch, and their prices are actually pretty reasonable. If you want a good place to buy a watch, watch their video, and I'm sure that'll inspire you. And no,
Nice looking watches too.
Yeah, they're really nice watches. And Tom and I are getting nothing for this. We have no affiliation whatsoever.
I'd like to be affiliated with them. I'm telling you, that was nicely done. And apparently, it was the CEO of that company that did it.
And they didn't just mention the basic stuff of workplace deaths. They went into the fact of of letting people know that half of all men who were being denied visitation or any contact with their children was still supporting them financially.
Yes.
They put the real deal out there. So anyway, hat tip to those guys. So we end on two kind of positive notes. One, BuzzFeed going down. We like it. I hope you all end up in a soup line. And the other is Egard watches. I think it's pronounced Egard or Egard.
Whoever, Egard.
Whoever, we'll link you.
Yeah, man.
Go and buy a watch from these people.
Yes, indeed. If I wore a watch, I'd definitely buy one.
And we will have before long coming up another edition of Regarding Men with Tom and myself and Janice Fiamengo. We want to thank you all for the great feedback you've given us on all the channels for that.
Yeah.
There's a rousing round of support, and we're looking forward to doing a lot more of those discussions.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm looking forward to it. Janice is a hoot.
Yes, she is.
She's great. I love her.
Yep. Call me White Knight. I love her too.
So are we finished?
I think we are. Well,
all right.
Not finished. We're just for now.
Yeah.
Men are good.
Men are good. So are you. Indeed. We'll see you guys in our 580 million mile trip around the sun. All right, let's see if I can turn the fucking thing off.
Why don't you turn the fucking thing